Today on the podcast, really great stuff with news. We got Will Cain. Please subscribe to the Russillo Show podcast or leave a comment review. Chris Paul traded to the Rockets, and this isn't just about can they beat the Warriors now, because we know the answer is no, but there's more to this. Why I don't think Phil Jackson actually tried to get fired. I just think he wasn't that into it. And John McEnroe joining us on what went down with all the Serena stuff this week.
The Ryen Russillo Show podcast.
I just said it on the TV side where when it's really hot outside and somebody's like, hey, hot enough for you? And you're just like, shut up. Yes, I'm dying. Have you seen the weather in Tempe lately? Mesa?
That's the kind of small talk that kills me. Honestly, I know we have a lot to get into, but for what it's worth, that stuff kills me. How you been? What's going on?
Wow.
How's work?
There's no soul there. I expected Will Cain to have... See, I would have thought you just a Texas guy.
Oh
all those different... No? Okay. You know what? I'm not even going to do it to you now because we don't even have time. We don't have time. Chris Paul's been traded to the Rockets. Phil Jackson's been fired, and that's before you even had lunch. The Russillo Show with Will Cain today. It's ESPN Radio. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. I asked for an extra hour today. I was told no. May just do just a solo pod, wrapping this whole thing up. Maybe early August, though. I don't know.
Is that for real? You asked for an extra hour?
No, I didn't. Okay, I wanted to start with Phil. I wanted to do 2 segments on Phil. We're going to get to Phil and him being out and all the different versions of that conversation we can have. But we have to start with something that I thought was so unlikely, and that was Chris Paul going to the Rockets. I thought, okay, maybe he leaves and leaves money on the table for the Spurs. But here's what you have to remember the Chris Paul thing. The reason why I'm wrong and so many of us are wrong about this is that it was reported last Friday that he would opt out and become a free agent. So if he was going to sign with a new team, it was going to be for 4 years and like $150 million. And if he stayed with the Clippers, it was going to be 5 years and $200+ million. So he's leaving between $50 and $60 million on the table. And then he would have been a free agent again with a new team at 36. He wasn't going to make that money back up. That was reported. We reported it. And I got to give Woj a ton of credit. Again, shocker. But Woj reported that Blake Griffin was opting out and becoming a free agent. And he was right. We reported that Chris Paul was going to opt out. And we were wrong. We were wrong. And then it was said again on Monday and Tuesday. And then guess what happens today? He opts in because he tells the Clippers he's going to go to Houston in free agency. So then it becomes a little bit of a cat and mouse game between those two. And the Clippers go, well, we don't want to lose you for nothing. So Paul goes to Houston, stays in this contract, and then he can make back all that money in another new contract where he extends it out 36 and 37 years old. So that's all the stuff that you need to understand how this thing actually came together and whether or not Paul would actually leave all that money on the table and do a new deal. The Clippers must have thought that that was the case. The Spurs now saying that they weren't interested. Jeff Goodman just said that the Spurs were like, we kicked the tires on it, but we have an old point guard. Does it matter that your old point guard isn't good anymore and Chris Paul is still great? But I think the most important thing of this, Will, is now with the Rockets and Harden and Chris Paul, what do we have as a basketball team?
That's the greatest unknown left because of so many questions you just answered. You look at this trade from so many different angles, and I think you have to break it down into Clippers, Rockets, Paul. The trade from the Clippers' perspective makes a ton of sense to me because, well, lack of options. So you get Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams, a 2018 first-round pick, and what is the other player?
Lou Williams.
Sam Decker.
Sam Decker.
Yep.
Top 3 protected first-rounder, which all the people that know Daryl Morey, the GM of the Rockets, were so smart to point out. It's just him. Hey, can we throw a little top 3 on this?
So, but the Clippers got what they could get, right?
You didn't want to laugh too much at that. I appreciate that.
I'm really trying to keep it in check.
Yeah, that's all right. When you're not going to laugh, I got a button. Maybe you don't get the Daryl Morey jokes.
Hit the sweet spot.
Haberstroh's dying right now.
Trying to hit the sweet spot. Don't first take debate Ryan.
Right.
Don't agree with Ryan.
Right. Don't be first take Will Cain. Don't laugh too much per Randy Scott. We'll worry about these issues later.
So the Clippers, I get it, man. You're put into a bind. What can I get? He's out. From the Rockets' perspective, this is a great unknown that you bring up. James Harden was unlocked last year. Like a key went in, clicked the lock open, and we saw a new James Harden. And that new James Harden, in turn, unlocked the Rockets. 41 wins to 55 wins. For James Harden, 7 assists a season to 11 assists a game. James Harden absolutely became a different player with the ball in his hands as a primary distributor. And you add Chris Paul to that? 2 guys who dribble the ball up the court, and now what? What is going to happen? I have no doubt that James Harden will flourish under Mike D'Antoni. And James Harden will be what? Spot up at the 3? Turned over to him, and he's your last-minute ditch bailout drive to the hoop? I just don't know how the two work together.
The NBA rule is this, and it is that you go get the talent. If you can have Chris Paul tomorrow, you go ahead and get Chris Paul.
I get it.
If you're the GM of a team, and we're in agreement here, so I'm just emphasizing this again, but I think most into it NBA fans, that's the way front offices run this whole thing. All right, so now I have Chris Paul and I have Harden. Well, that's better than what I had before, despite the fact you're right. Harden unlocked, MVP caliber season, but it's all in his hands. He had the second highest usage rate, which basically means how many shots, how many assists, how many turnovers, free throws, all that different stuff. How many times per 100 possessions do you have the ball in your hands and kind of the deciding part of the possession? And Harden was second only to an off-the-charts historic usage rate for Russell Westbrook. So now that will change. But I will give Harden credit because I've seen him play in different versions of himself. Like, he doesn't necessarily need to be – the numbers won't be the same, but what does that mean? It was a disaster against the Spurs once the Spurs kind of figured it out and Harden went missing. I think I'm more surprised. Like, I would never knock the Rockets, even though I feel like it's a little redundant because of how good Harden was, but they're just going to move him off the ball. Paul's going to dribble, and then these guys are still going to put up awesome numbers, and Chris Paul's still going to be great, and Harden's still going to be great.
And I figure out this is a good problem to have.
Right,
to your point, accumulate talent, figure that out later.
Right. No one did it better than the Golden State Warriors, but they are such a great just operation, what they're doing on offense, that they could plug in somebody like Durant, because Durant just doesn't need to dribble the air out of the ball the entire time. Other guys are different. Harden dribbles it a lot, but now he's just not going to because we've actually seen him do this in a lesser role before. So if he was just worried about the numbers, then maybe this would bother him. But apparently he was recruiting Chris Paul this whole time. What I can't believe is that Paul goes here and says, now I'm in a better spot. Is it wanting to get away from Doc? Is it wanting to get away from Blake Griffin? That's definitely something that Steven Jackson said on SportsCenter just earlier today. And we have this one right here.
Well, to me, when I was there, I felt like DeAndre and Chris really wanted to be teammates, and they wanted to win, like, around the whole team. I kind of felt like Blake was the odd man out. I kind of felt like Blake felt like he was a little bit better than everybody else. You know, that's what I felt. Chris Paul was a guy who was the same with all his teammates. Everybody loves DeAndre. He's one of the best teammates ever. I always felt like Blake was the odd man out and kind of tried to be away from everybody and stand on his own. And you can't do that in the team. That's one reason why you won't be successful in all your teammates going different directions. You have to buy in. You have to be all on the same page. And I don't think them three was.
And so, look, Ryan, I think that's the next angle, by the way, that we have to talk about today, and everyone's going to start analyzing is where does this leave the Clippers? But I want to just revisit where you started this segment for 1 minute, because when I was on First Take this morning, we were having insane hot take debates left and right. And in the middle of all of that,
hot enough for you?
In the middle of all of that, I see Cassidy Hubbard, who's hosting the show today, write down a note on her piece of paper and shove it towards me like, I mean, the implication is shut up, by the way. And it said...
He passed you a note?
It said, Chris Paul traded. And you're like, what? So you're processing...
So you're in the middle of everything else.
Oh, I'm in the middle of arguing about Phil or something, or D-Wade opting in and
Does
now
Vince Young
wanting...
have a point?
Yeah, so... and then this. And so you're processing it in real time. And here was the biggest thing that I couldn't figure out. Why would Chris Paul do this? Why would Chris Paul reduce his own freedom? Because in a matter of days, he could be wide open and free to go wherever he wanted, be it the Spurs, be it the Rockets, be it wherever. And you have answered that in part because he maestroed this entire thing. Paul, he got all of the money he would have gotten had he stayed with the Clippers and got, I guess, this is the guess part, the team he wanted to be at. My only remaining hesitation is, could you have not have done the same deal with the Spurs, where to me it all makes much more sense. Playing for Pop, need a point guard, but what you're telling me here is the Spurs were kind of meh on the whole thing in the first place.
That's what Jeff Goodman said, and I actually, I don't like to do this, like, I know Goodman well enough where if you disagree with somebody and you go, and I'm not even disagreeing with Goodman, I'm disagreeing with the source that said, look, we got an aging point guard in Tony Parker, like, we didn't want Chris Paul. You, what? You didn't want Chris Paul? Like, that kind of gets back to the whole thing. Like, we can run through all the flaws of all of these top-tier players. Like, Paul George, Blake Griffin, you just kind of go ahead and get him because you moved out Patrick Beverley, Sam Decker, and Lou Williams in a first-round pick. So I understand why Houston did it, even if there's hesitation for there's only one ball crowd. I'm shocked San Antonio wasn't more interested. So if that was the case, then I guess that wasn't even a destination for Paul to go ahead and do it. But now when you crunch through all the salary numbers, like I would like to ask Paul, would you still really have done this if you're going to leave that much money on the table? So he takes a slight pay cut this year, but will make it back up, then an extension that he can sign this season, I believe. So that's working out for Chris Paul, and now he's with Harden. But there's one more part to this that I didn't even get to that may be the most important part, and I promise this isn't a Greeny thing because it sounds really good so far, and maybe I should make it more like Greeny more often.
What are you talking
on the
about?
teases. There's one thing that's going on with all of these NBA teams, and we just saw in like part one of it with Harden and Paul, that you have to understand why a deal like this even happens, okay?
All right.
So we'll do that next. And Phil Jackson out with the Knicks. A ton on that.
The Ryen Russillo Show. Russillo.
Let me just finish the thought of the opener of the show on Chris Paul being traded to the Houston Rockets. So now you have Harden and you have Paul. And I know immediately it leads to, okay, but is this team good enough to beat Golden State? The answer's no, and that's not the point. The point is now that you have these two people in place, what can you then add to this? There's an arms race going on in the NBA where players are looking around going, well, if they did it in Miami 7 years ago, and Cleveland's able to orchestrate this deal of moving these pieces in with LeBron 3 years ago, and Golden State can win 73 games and come this close to winning back-to-back titles and then add Durant, then we have to keep up. That's why the Celtics are trying not just for Gordon Hayward in free agency, they're trying to tell Gordon Hayward, hey, we're going to get Paul George, and they're trying to tell Paul George, we want to trade for you because we're also going to add a Gordon Hayward. So think about it. Who's going to be better than us in the East other than just Cleveland? We can roll through everybody else, and let's go at Cleveland as they're another year older, and it'll be LeBron's 8th run at this thing. So teams are selling their roster situation as another option for a super team, and that's all Houston. This is now step 2. Step 1 was James Harden. They thought step 2 was Dwight Howard. It wasn't. They deleted that. Step 2 is Chris Paul, and now you can tell the next guy that's thinking about moving, whether it's this summer, at the trade deadline, or whatever guy becomes unstable and decides he's out, Houston's now a more attractive option. So it's not about the completed construction of your roster. It's about trying to figure out how you become more enticing to the next great player that wants out.
And good for the NBA. Multiple super teams, 4 or 5 super teams, to me is an answer to many things that are woeing the NBA. That is, I don't want to have the predictability of 2 teams marching through, but 4, 5 super teams? Now that's interesting. But here's my question to you. How many franchises can actually be at step 2 who can use their current star or current roster as a bargaining chip or a lure for step 2, whatever that may be, the next star? And I don't know that we can get down very far. I don't know we can list. I mean, I guess I think the over-under is probably at 5. Can you get to 5 franchises that could do what the Rockets just did?
5's probably a good number there. Portland is trying to sell their backcourt. Portland's trying to do that. The Spurs still feel like they're in play for a bunch of different things. Let's see what happens with Blake. Blake may just now say, cool, I'm good with staying in L.A. I like the whole L.A. thing, and now I'm good. We'll do more on this a little bit later. Will Cain here, The Russillo Show. Reminding you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. The Phil Jackson, the biggest debate after him being fired, it could not have been, like, what were you guys doing on TV today? Was it justified, unjustified dismissal of Phil? Like, what did you have to...
We attacked it from every angle, and of course I have an unpopular opinion on this, but...
well, I want to hear that unpopular opinion.
Look, I just think the glee, the celebration, and the frothing at the mouth that precipitated that came first about, let's put Phil's head on a stick, pitchfork, mob, get Phil, he's the source of all of our problems, is so unfounded and so emotional and so out of place. And the Knicks find themselves today in a situation that is 0% better than they were yesterday and in the same position they were before Phil. And if you come at me and tell me about 50 wins and there was a season or 2, the Knicks were going nowhere before Phil. And the truth of the matter is, if you're going to say they're going somewhere now, it's because of Phil. It'll be Kristaps, it'll be Ntilikina, it'll be Hernan Gomez. That will be the future of the Knicks. Now, I'm not sitting here, and don't push me into Phil's the GM of the year candidate.
Should he have been fired, in your opinion, today?
I think the Knicks' problems are deeper than Phil
Should he have
Jackson.
been fired?
They are James Dolan.
I'm not disagreeing with James Dolan being at the forefront of this thing because it was bad with Isaiah, the Larry Brown stuff, which was Isaiah.
11 GMs.
Right.
8 coaches.
Donnie Walsh got bounced out.
Actually, I got that backwards.
Because what? Because he striked out in free agency? Like, that one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, it's Donnie Walsh.
Since 1999, Ryan, fourth worst record in the NBA. 8 GMs or executives.
The Knicks in
11
general
coaches.
are one of the most overrated sports franchises in history. Like, it's just, like, what are we talking about here? A couple finals appearances?
It's the New York City, man. It's basketball. It's
Is
New York
it?
City. I mean, if I could own one sports franchise, setting my heart aside, anything in the city of Dallas, I would want to own the New York Knicks because they are an underperforming, undervalued asset.
But they're not undervalued.
Well, if you put a winner in Madison Square Garden, that franchise value is going up. That $3.6 billion they're worth right now, that number will go up.
I just don't know if he wanted the job. And that's the problem you're going to have ever getting anybody to have an open mind about Phil Jackson. Because I think there are so many people driving around right now, whatever your industry is, education, sales, medical devices. The guys from Stryker right now driving around, okay? I'll tell you what I do when I go on some affiliates or when we have our little affiliate camp here, and there's guys, like 60 years old, because nobody ever says, hey, at 60, I want to be that. You know what I mean? Like none of us, you're 20, you're looking at me being, I don't want to be that at 40. Like you're saying it to me. And when I look at guys that are 60, I look at a guy at the gym who's 60, and I see him eyeing me up and down, and I go, just remember when you're 60 and you see the version of you 20 years younger, he hates you, and you're going to hate you when you're 60. You're going to hate the guy that shows up to the gym. And guess what? The guy I see at 20, I hate him. And when he turns 40, he's going to hate the 20-year-old version of him. So the point that I'm trying to make here is we all get older. We all kind of try to figure out like the best exit. We all want to figure out the way that we're going to avoid all the things we've been worried about most of our lives. And a lot of that in our occupation is how can I just kind of consult? What I like to do is I like to go around affiliates and just kind of check in, see how they're doing. I'm in medical sales. What I'd like to do is just maybe do a conference here or there. But what you're really saying is you want to get paid and not work. And I think that's what Phil did. And he did it publicly, and he did it for way more money than any of us will likely see. Always like to leave that caveat on there because you never know. Right?
You never know.
You just hit some stock.
The likely part you're talking about?
Yeah. I don't like to already check out on the idea that I can't make $60 million in my late 60s. Why should I just concede that, right?
Right, exactly.
Windhorst agrees with me, and I want out of this you to, like, is there any glimpse, is there any part of you where you're just like, maybe these people are right?
Well, to me, when I was there,
That's Steven Jackson.
He did this job for the money. He was very happy in retirement. He was looking to be a president somewhere, but certainly not at a position like this. And he did it because they offered him so much money over 5 years that he couldn't say no. And basically what he's going to probably walk out of this with is a lot of money and a tarnished reputation. He's still going to have his 11 rings. He's still going to be one of the greatest coaches of all time. But he could go down as one of the worst executives of all time over these 3 years.
I mean, with all due respect to Brian, I think that's just such hyperbolic nonsense. I mean, by the way, Stephen A. makes the same argument. I just can't remember which jobs is it you don't do for the money? Who's doing jobs not for the money? Who's volunteers? So Phil took a lot of money. And second, worst GM in the history of sports. Is that what we're going to set the terms at that? That's
Isaiah was much worse with the Knicks than
not even the worst
Phil
in that
was.
franchise's history.
Did Stephen A. say Isaiah was better than Phil?
We didn't get into Isaiah.
You should try to do that to deflect how bad some of the other arguments are that you have to defend. That's what you should do.
I know we got to go. I'm willing to consider that I have been a reactionary to the mob, but I do think it's the mob. But I'm willing. I'll think about it.
So we know Chris Paul's with the Rockets. We'll touch on that and the Phil Jackson stuff. That's almost the entire show. So allow me just this sliver. We may do life advice today too, but whatever. This sliver of telling you a story. Have I talked to you about Outsider Mike before?
Well, I know Outsider Mike.
You know him. He works here in radio.
Yep.
Used to work on the show of Van Pelt and I forever. We really didn't talk to him for almost a year. And then I just said to him, like, what's your problem? And he said, I felt like an outsider. He never would talk to me. And then I named him Outsider Mike. And then now he's kind of Mikey C, and he's on with Stu and Golick Jr. on Weekend Observations on Sunday mornings. And I blew off my hit this Sunday. I'm sorry.
You were supposed to be on the show and you blew it off?
Yeah, it's just 8:30 and the phone, the silence thing was on. I didn't even see it ring. And then I looked back and it was 9 o'clock. The show was over.
Oh, man. As a guy who had a weekend show, just let me tell you.
It's the worst.
I hate you right now.
Hey, look, I was there. But yeah, that's on me. But it wasn't a big deal. Stu Gotts didn't really care. because they would rather talk to Mikey C and make fun of him. So Mikey C has this thing, outsider again, I'm just going to call him that, where he'd really love to be more famous. It's really like it's like a drug for him. So when he was on Van Pelt and I started getting a little bit more shine, he started telling stories, and people were like, man, this guy's great. Like, he decided to launch his own TV channel. I don't know how that's going. And then as soon as he was off the show, it just flatlined. Like, I don't think anyone hit the follow button for like 2 years on the guy. And it was kind of driving him crazy because he felt like an artist that was sort of being ignored.
Right.
Right? Like, wait a minute, I was on the cusp of something great.
Right.
And now
right.
I'm not.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So I think it's accurate to describe him as somebody that is thirsting for this recognition, and he thinks a lot of the stuff that he does is probably beneath him. I'm just going to say it.
I'm just going to say it.
So Stugatz loves him, obviously, if you listen to Stu with Dan. Like, loves him. Like, who is this guy? And, he's told us all sorts of stories that are incredible. Well, he's now throwing out the first pitch tonight for the Hartford Yard Goats. Real double-A baseball, okay? And he did it because he basically got people to retweet, and then as soon as he saw the promo for it, he was upset that the font was a little too small, but he let it ride. They've made this 30 for 30 for him. This is Jerry who made this. This guy, Jerry, in our department's like, this is really great work on his part. I didn't know him that well. He was out of breath when the Barstool guys were here. He was so excited. But this is incredible what he did here. So here's your little promo for Mikey C Day. He smokes.
What if I told you a sideshow could become the real show?
If you were at the mall and you saw two people holding hands, would you think that they were sleeping together?
A 40-year-old part-time board op could make his own way, one cigarette at a time.
I want to start my own thing where you can throw a lit cigarette butt onto the ice, maybe after a good fight.
What if I told you a hungry man would become the man?
Do you think from now on, like, intercourse might be a topic we don't touch?
Yeah, well, I don't touch it much anyways.
That it would take the Yard Goats to validate the GOAT.
We have given him now a full day at a AA ballpark coming up, a full promotional day built around him.
This is the fake ESPN 30 for 30. No goats, no glory.
I'm all for that, so I'm not the punching bag every week for a change.
The Mikey C. Day story, presented by Weekend Observations with Stu and Junior.
He is not the punching bag. We have made him the star of the show.
June 28th at Dunkin' Donuts Park.
So that's tonight, and a bunch of people are heading over, but the part of the story that I've not told you yet is that his car broke down yesterday, and he went to pop the hood on it, and it sprayed hot antifreeze coolant all over his throwing arm.
No.
He has second-degree burns on his arm. It's been bandaged. His car doesn't work. So now his uncle is going to drive him to the field tonight because he doesn't have a car, and he's going to throw out the first pitch with burn bandages on his arm. This dude is real. And I know on one of the busiest NBA days ever, I cut out a 6-minute sliver of my show to talk about this, but I think everybody's better because of it.
So Mikey C is playing hurt tonight.
Yeah, he is. He's been playing hurt for a while, but
He's playing hurt, driven by his uncle to have his day.
dropped off.
Dropped off
His uncle might not even go.
to have his day. And I'm real happy for him.
And the thing is it kind of bums some people out because he probably thinks this isn't enough for him. Like, I was like, are you the first pitch or are you in that first pitch group that we see in minor league deals?
Oh, like,
He's
so they have like 5 or 6 guys lined up?
Yeah. Be like, wait a minute, I'm with Denny's, I'm on the corporate board. Who's this kid? I was told this was a first pitch.
Think about the guy that has to look over at Mike getting dropped off with his bandage and goes, I thought I was like a CEO throwing out the first pitch. Who's this guy?
Right. So I think it's just him. But whatever it is, it won't be good enough. Look, that story's real. I don't have any way to close it.
The Ryen Russillo Show. Russillo.
Really excited to talk to John McEnroe, former world #1 in tennis. We know him. We also know that he was a topic of conversation this week, and he joins us now on the show, Pennzoil Performance Line. His book, But Seriously, went on sale yesterday. John, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Yourself?
I'm good. I was in a bad mood yesterday because I saw your CBS hit, and if I were you, I would never go on that show again.
Well, you think they came after me too hard?
I thought, look, I don't know you, other than I've met you once or twice here. I think this whole thing's a joke, and I thought the way they came after you yesterday, it was so obvious. And then for one of them to ask you what you would be ranked currently at 58 years old, as if that's some sort of win, like how were you able to kind of compose you? I guess you've just been in the famous role enough and in the spotlight enough, but were you ever annoyed? How were you able to control yourself yesterday?
Well, I was sort of amazed that it sort of blown up in the first place, because this isn't the first time that people have discussed this type of thing, including myself. But I guess in a way, that's sort of what my book is about, sort of perspective and trying to look at the glass half full and trying to look at the positives and realize that for the most part I've been really lucky, and that as I look forward in my life, I've got a lot to be thankful for and to try to enjoy that. So this is just another one of those learning experiences, and I guess you could say, well, maybe it just people are more aware of my book than they would have been otherwise. So I'm surprised that it was sort of, I felt twisted and that people were sort of taken aback just because I came up with a number. And no one really wants to sort of respond back to what they'd actually think it was or believe. And if it could be a non-issue, I've said this for 30, 40 years. Why is it that in tennis is the only sport where this is talked about? Why don't they talk about the girls in the WNBA and how they do if they played against the Warriors, or in the NBA, or any other sport for that matter? You never hear it except tennis. So I guess from that standpoint, it sort of gets on my nerves.
John, this is Will Cain along with Ryen here. Both of us talked about this yesterday. Ryen on his program. I did it on First Take. It's interesting you bring up the number. Do you think there's a number you could have given that would not have elicited outrage?
Probably if I had said somewhere in the top 100. I think that would have been a lot easier for my daughters. I have 4 girls and 2 boys, so it started years ago. You can't beat Serena. Come on. Thanks, girls. And now it's sort of morphed into now what would happen. They don't seem to ask the other players. I always seem to be the brunt of this Serena thing. I don't know why. I think Serena is one of the great athletes of the last 100 years, and she's done a phenomenal job for tennis. I don't know where it would be without her being around the last 10 years. We haven't had a male guy win anything since Roddick 14 years ago. So we've got our work cut out for us, and so if this brings some type of publicity or some type of interest or some type of awareness to it, so that maybe more kids would want to play it or somehow be able to play it, then I'll look back in this and be happy about it. Otherwise, I think it's sort of a big waste of time.
John McEnroe with us, the Russillo Show, Will Cain on ESPN Radio. I haven't read your book yet. I read Agassi's, and I loved it. And what I really didn't understand as somebody who just casually plays tennis is you can drive yourself crazy out there. Like, people can say, okay, this guy's more of a personality, this guy's doing this, but what is it about being alone the way you are in these high-pressure moments that is specific to tennis that you guys are basically getting in your own heads or trying to keep yourselves out of it?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I didn't do a very good job of composing myself most of my career, so I may be the wrong person to ask, but I did find growing up as a kid that the fact that I could play other sports. I played a couple of years of high school basketball. I played 4 years of high school soccer. I did like team sports, and I think that was a way to blow off some steam and take some of the pressure off. I think the way the parents look at the game now, they think they've got to tell their kids at 8 or 9 years old they got to focus only on tennis. I think that's a big mistake. I think you see more and more people homeschooling in tennis, which I think is a big mistake because we're already very isolated. So you have to nurture kids a lot more, particularly in a one-on-one game, so they can be mature enough and emotionally stable enough to handle this. That's another reason why I advocate kids going to college, because if you look at tennis careers now, they're peaking. Look at what Roger's doing at 35 and more guys in their 30s. So guys are figuring out a way to prolong it, to recover more quickly. They have more of an understanding of what they need to do. So therefore, it's harder to sort of break through at a younger age. You're not really seeing guys under 20 the way you did in the past. It happened more often. So this, to me, is a no-brainer. Let these kids sort of grow up as people and go to a couple of years of college where they can experience growing up on their own, experience being around a team. Then they go off and they're much better able to handle it. We have recent history with Steve Johnson, one of our top Americans, 4 years at SC. John Isner went to 4 years of school. And those are our top, two of our top players. So I think that hopefully people will take a closer look at that, because I don't think it will hurt their careers at all if they at least spend a couple of years.
What did you put in the book that maybe you were reluctant to keep in?
What did I put in the book that I was reluctant? Well, anytime you sort of get into anything personal or something that when some difficulties I had with my own kids, that gets to be something that is tough, because as a parent, you're only sort of as happy as your most unhappy kid, and so that makes it difficult. I got 6, and particularly when you're in a situation where you're going, been in a divorce and trying to deal with the ramifications of that, and then you have an opportunity like I did with a second marriage that's been really good for me personally, but continue to be, being a stepmom is very tricky in a best case scenario. So to try to how to handle that and figure out how that all pans out, to me has been difficult, and something that if I had a choice, I try to, it's not like I'm revealing everything, but anytime you get into things like that, personal things, it's a little tough.
John, we've got the publicity sheet here for your book, But Seriously, and one of the sentences in this synopsis says, in But Seriously, McEnroe confronts his demons and reveals his struggle to reinvent himself. What were those demons?
Well, the demons was, ranging from not being able to enjoy myself on the court the way that Roger Federer does, and having to sort of have that played out publicly and having that cause problems at times, to feeling like failure as a husband or a father, and not doing a good enough job in my first marriage, and hopefully trying to make up for that. And also in sports, as you all know, covering it, a lot of guys, myself, I peaked at 25, 26 years old, so it's not easy emotionally as someone who still feels like they're growing up and trying to figure things out, to figure out how to sort of look at the final 2/3 of your life and want it to be as productive as something when you walk down the center court of Wimbledon. So all those things take a lot of time. I'm still working on it. I'm 58. I still feel like I need to wean myself. I'm lucky. 40 years ago this year, I got to the semis at Wimbledon. People still know my name, a fair amount of people, and I'm still sort of out there, which I'm very proud of. But I want to be able to sort of enjoy the years of my life if, when I walk into a place, they don't know who I am or they don't care. And then I'll still be able to appreciate what's I'm looking at moving forward.
John, thanks a lot, man. Congrats on the book. Look forward to reading it. All right.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
There you go, John McEnroe. But seriously, that went on sale yesterday. The long-awaited follow-up #1 bestseller, You Cannot Be Serious. There you go. We talked to John McEnroe. I think he'd probably go on CBS again.
Yeah. John acquitted himself fine. He's some people like confrontation.
Do you think people listen and be like, No, I think for the most part we all make up our minds. Like, those are all great points, but I made up my mind last week.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. We had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
So we know Chris Paul is going to be a Houston Rocket. He opted in instead of opting out, which is what everybody thought he would do. And when he was going to opt out, I go, is he really going to leave all that money on the table? Well, he opts in, forces a trade, 1-year contract with the Rockets. He can sign a 5-year extension. He can keep all of his money. Like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. And then you go, okay, well, what is it, though, about the Rockets? Harden, like, what's he going to be doing with James Harden when James Harden just decides to not play defense on anybody and it's a tight game? Because that's, like, you can not like Chris Paul. Chris Paul is playing defense. Harden, I don't know. Are they such good friends that they feel like they're just going to work this whole thing out? Because I would say Paul's not the easiest guy to play with, and I don't mean that as a knock on his game. It's just he's going to let you know. So Michael Eaves, who's covered this team for a long time, does a bunch of L.A. stuff, is one of our anchors, posted this on Facebook. He says, here's some information. First, the micro. Paul's relationship with Doc Rivers started to deteriorate rapidly after the Clippers acquired Austin Rivers. Several members of the team felt Austin act entitled because his dad was both the coach and the president of basketball ops. In the view of the tenured players, Austin Rivers never tried to fit in, and when players tried to address the situation with him, he still did not respond the way the core of the team wanted him to. It led to resentment within the locker room, which often played out during games. One of Paul's biggest contentions with Doc was that Paul and other players felt Doc treated Austin more favorably than other players. He would yell at guys for certain things during games and practices, but not get on Austin in the same manner for similar transgressions.
All right, so number one, Michael Eaves. This is an incredible post on Facebook that he has.
This is what he's saying, right?
This is what he is saying, Michael Eaves. Number one, the problem there is essentially nepotism, that Doc was giving favorable treatment to his son, Austin.
I'm surprised that Doc, and the knocks against Austin, there were people telling you like he didn't even belong in the league. Yes, he's overpaid. Yes, he can be annoying to watch play. He's an NBA player. You can hate him, but he's good enough to play in the league.
But apparently Chris Paul felt like, according to Michael Eaves, that Austin Rivers was not held at the same standard the rest of the team was.
That's why I don't even know why you'd want to put yourself in that position. Why would you want to put yourself in that position if you were Doc, going, I know that this can bother other people? Because when the nepotism thing happens, like people will find excessive reasons to be bothered by it that maybe aren't even legitimate.
No, it undercuts every sense of being able to earn something and that this is a meritocracy that you could ever have. And so every team member is going to go, what? What do I have to do here?
So then, as this post continues from Michael Eaves, and this is, again, him saying these things, but what really solidified the dissatisfaction was a proposed trade involving Carmelo Anthony last season. New York offered up Melo, Sasha Vujacic to the Clippers in exchange for Jamal Crawford, Paul Pierce, and Austin Rivers, a deal to which Rivers ultimately, Doc, said no to. That event led Paul to feel that keeping Doc's son Austin on the roster was more important to Doc than improving the team. So, ultimately, Paul lost both trust and faith in Doc, and as one league executive put it, quote, Chris despises Doc. And then Michael Eaves is saying he was just told that when Chris Paul met with the team to inform them of his plans, Jerry West wasn't even there, and it was Doc and Lawrence Frank.
All right, so for Michael Eaves' second point, we've all wondered all along, Carmelo Anthony seems like a logical landing spot the Clippers seem like a logical landing spot for Carmelo Anthony, and apparently we aren't the only ones who thought so. The Knicks thought so as well, if this proposed trade and rumored trade is real. And if, in fact, the Clippers did turn down that trade, what I'm looking at on paper right now, I would have the same reservations Chris Paul did. I would say, whoa. This deal doesn't make sense for us?
That's a tough one. I'm trying to look at this and say, okay, the Austin stuff, and this isn't like, okay, what do you believe what Eve said? What do you not believe?
I'm laying out. Right, this is Eve's case he's laying out.
Yeah. Why would you not do the Melo deal? I mean, you're getting him for free, basically. And Austin is signed, so you can't do the thing where it's like, well, we don't want Melo's. You may not want Melo's contract in the books, but you're able to add Melo, and we all sit there and say he's not the answer, but
that deal makes sense, Ryan. That's what you're saying. The deal makes so much sense. You're having a hard time believing that L.A. would turn it down, and the answer being suggested here is because of the nepotism. Is because of Austin Rivers.
The other answer could be that Melo's owed $60 million.
Yeah, well, that's not what's said here. That could be an answer why this trade deal wasn't done.
I'm just trying to figure, instead of reading this post and going, wow, Doc's the worst.
Nepotism. No. I think it's
my gosh. I'm trying to find ways to do this, but even if Austin could play a little bit, I wouldn't want to do that as a head coach. I wouldn't, because I'd be afraid of this kind of stuff happening. And this happened. And was this really the reason Chris Paul is a Houston Rocket today? You know how bad that makes that organization look?
Well, he gives 3 points. These are the first two, and I think the third is actually the most compelling.
Okay.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
The macro case for why this deal went down. This is Michael Eaves on Facebook. This move was a win-win for Chris Paul, and it was all part of a master plan. By opting into the final year of his current contract and pressuring the Clippers to trade him to Houston, Paul's in the exact same situation next summer. He can re-sign with the Rockets for 5 years, $200 million, or sign a 4-year deal for about $150 with another team. In addition, he's going to save several $1 million in state income taxes, a little cherry on top here.
Well, the millionaire tax in California is ridiculous. So, what are you, 13.5% out there for state income tax? That's what it is.
Yeah, Texas, 0. So what Eaves is saying here,
you'll have to worry about that with First Take if you guys ever move it
to Texas. There's so many things to laugh about in that statement.
I got it for you. Don't laugh too hard.
That's right. Well, not too hard. But read that last. The last paragraph is the real kicker. By being committed to the Rockets for only one season, it gives him a year to see if he can actually coexist with James Harden. If they can make that work. But even beyond that, this gives Paul more flexibility to join LeBron James in 2018. If he stayed in LA and signed the max deal with the Clippers and forced to sign it, and then forced to try them to sign with the Rockets, Paul and LeBron would only be able to join forces in one location.
So you're still going with
now they'll be able to do it wherever they want.
He'll leave all this money on the table, though.
No. It's just, he has an optionality now.
No, look, I understand this. I've been explaining this for 2 hours.
Right.
Okay? But what you're telling me is if you believe that he'll just be free agent and go banana boat with all these dudes, then eventually, like at some point, the extension with the Birds' rights has to kick in. And maybe he does just leave all this money. The weird unintended consequence of these new salaries and the salary cap jumping the way it has, Will, is that maybe the money is so, and I don't want to call it absurd or insane as if it's negative. It's good. I'm glad these guys are making this much money. You know, people that don't like I've never understand people getting mad at players' salaries. She's like, what do you want? The owner to make more? What are you rooting for, Ballmer? That you got a poster of Ballmer at home? Like, I love your 60-40 revenue split. That's awesome. Like, what are you doing? So if you start making north of $30 million, maybe these players are going, the money is so much bigger now, I can leave it on the table. But I still...
No, well, you know what? I've heard this in business. Nobody likes losing money.
I know. So then this theory that he's just going to bounce after a year, it's probably more likely he signs the extension with the Rockets. But I don't know. Look, we've been wrong on this, that he's even here. We thought, at least we were reporting at ESPN, that he wasn't going to opt in, that he was going to opt out and become a free agent, and that's like, okay, so he's not going to leave that money on the table, and then here you go. Chris Paul has tweeted out, by the way, quote, unbelievable amount of emotions right now. I don't even know what to say. Lots of love and tears. I'm so blessed and thankful for the ability to play this game. This is the part that no one can prepare for.
The Ryen Russillo Show.
I would just walk in and go, what's the plan, bro? Why are you sleeping until 1? We need to start stripping it back down to the base.
It's your life and our advice.
Let me fix your life, not just your back porch.
All right, let's do it. First one, the Heartland. Eric in India. Oh, Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana.
Yeah, that would be.
Thanks for taking the call, guys.
Makes way more sense.
Hope, a lot more in the Heartland. Hope this thing happens between you two. I've got a question about my buddy. He had a crush on a girl way back in the day. She's gotten married, had kids, but recently become widowed. And now I think there's some mutual interest, and he's not sure how to play it. I have no idea how to support the guy. Thoughts?
Wow. All right, so widowed.
Is this that fake I have a buddy thing? Is this about you?
No, 100% not.
I mean, do you not want to support him? I mean, it's not like he's necessarily doing anything wrong here. You know, she probably could use a friend at this point. And if they're both interested in each other, he could actually provide an incredibly supportive role. So I would support him on his support.
I don't see any red flags. Like, I don't see any red lights, no red flags. What's the problem?
Love my guy, but not really in the most prominent position in life. She has a bunch of kids.
Oh.
Just, well-being of everybody involved kind of thing.
Okay, but here's the thing. Is he going to be into it and be bad at being supportive, or is he going to be supportive for like a few weeks and then bounce?
No, he's a committed guy.
All right, then yeah. I think you let him do it. You let him try to figure this one out. It sounds like the intentions are actually good and not terrible, which is usually most of our calls. So I'd say you'd support him, and if it's a disaster, it's a disaster.
And if it's mutual, hey, man.
Yeah.
It's love, not dollar signs.
Let's go to Jill in New Hampshire.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I have a 12-year-old nephew. He's completely obsessed with all things NBA, and he's coming to stay with me for 3 weeks. A little over a month ago, he told me to listen to this show so I get some knowledge, so we could have things to talk about. But I haven't really been paying that much attention, to be honest with you. So I was wondering, is there some place I can go to, just find basic information? I don't need to be the coolest aunt on the planet, but I don't want to be the lamest either when I have him for 3 weeks.
So you're saying it sounds like you're saying a bunch of different things, but the thing that kind of sticks out to me is that like the show hasn't helped you, or is it just you don't retain any of it, or it's just not interesting enough for anything to be retained? Like, how have we not been able to? Like today of all days,
trying to get
Jill,
over the personal insult.
Yeah, Jill.
No, it's an interesting show. I just listen to it in between when I teach classes and that, so I'm not, there with the whole show. And I've never even been to a basketball game before.
She's looking for a Cliff's Notes.
Don't have any knowledge.
Hey, do this. Why don't you do this? Tape one of the older NBA games. Like, find it. It could be on NBA TV, or I don't think we're going to have any up. But find one of the old classic games and tape it on the DVR and sit down and watch it with him and be like, this is Jordan playing in the playoffs. This is Bird going up against Magic. This is Iverson, a Kobe game. And sit down and be like, hey, I want to watch this with you, and have him explain it to you so he's super engaged and he feels like he's teaching you as opposed to you having the pressure of trying to keep up with him. Because you know what? You can't cram for this. This is a lifestyle, Jill.
Okay, thank you very much.
I was going to tell Jill what I do every day.
What was that?
How you go into a situation not knowing much but pull it off like you actually know everything.
Perfect. Okay, Jackie in Pittsburgh.
Hey, dudes. How's it going?
Super, dude.
I love this segment, and I need some advice. So I got this buddy that's getting married at the end of the summer, and I'm going to be the best man. The bugaboo is me and our other buddy don't like her one bit. Like, the girl literally hates anything that's related to fun. And the other thing is, based on some of my buddy who's getting married, like his actions, if you kind of get my drift, I'm not sure if he's sold on her either. And so what I need to know is, A, should I say anything to my buddy? And B, what do I say in this best man speech given how I feel about her? Because I'm not trying to be too funny.
I'm hot. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. You cool with this? I'm direct personal experience. I'm asking Ryan. I'm asking Ryan, because here's the thing, man. I know about this situation, and you got a tough decision because it breaks one of two ways, right? If you do this and you tell him, hey, got a secret for you, she stinks and we all think so, that's a friendship ender. Like, it's over between you and him if he doesn't jump on board with you, and the odds of him jumping on board with you are super low. He's already asked her to marry him. So you got to decide this. Is your friendship worth the gamble of saving this for your friend? Do you feel so strongly that it's that bad for him that you're willing to risk the existence of the friendship on that fact?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been friends with him for like 20 years, so I don't really want to throw that away, but I totally get what you're saying. I've
gone both ways, by the way, Jackie. What is I've seen friendships end over this fact, and I've seen friends just suffer through bad marriages with their friends.
Yeah,
I just feel like don't be accurate during the speech.
Oh, that part you got to lie on. I forgot. Yeah.
Just it's a speech, man. You kind of know why you're there. Like, all right, you know me. I'm no phony. So let's lay it all out.
She's the best,
Dave. All right, let's go to Mike in Silicon Valley. Mike, are you into tech? Do you know Kevin Durant?
Yeah. I actually work with Kevin Durant.
That's awesome.
And he gets Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing pretty well. I'm making it. I'm kind of crushing it out here. And I met this chick.
How much? What's your salary?
$150.
Nice. Rent out there? That's like $75 in Hartford.
Yeah, pretty much minimum wage. Anyway, so I do pretty well out here. I met this chick. I kind of really like her. And she's going to Spain for a week. We were supposed to hang out today before she left. And then she cancels on me last minute. And I'm kind of like, okay, do I just... And this is kind of like the second time in the past week. I'm kind of like, all right, well, I got a lot of options. Do I just wait it out till she gets back, or do I just kind of pivot and move on?
I would make up a fake Instagram account, load it up with about 12 fake pics, maybe some ab stuff, maybe something overseas. Your name's going to be Chuck Yeager, and you're going to DM her, and you're going to ask her what her deal is, and depending on how she responds to that, you're going to have your answer. Because it sounds a little shady. Nice. It sounds a little shady before a holiday weekend that she already had to bounce. Did she tell you what she was doing this holiday weekend, or did she kind of give you some vague stuff?
Yeah. Nah, she told me she was like going to Italy with like her friend for their 30th birthday party, whatever. She told me that a while ago she was going.
All right. Well, just stalk her Instagram for a bit. You'll figure it out. and I would make up a fake account. That help? You seem to be.
No, I was just letting you take that one.
You like that one?
I do. I think that was good advice.
Okay, last one. Fred in San Antonio.
Hey, guys, love the show.
Thanks.
Got a little bit of a dilemma. Got some shirts in my closet that I love these shirts. They're not tattered. They're not frayed.
Robert
they're not
Graham's?
stained. They're all Tommy Bahama.
Nah.
Great shirt.
Even nicer.
But my wife says they're too old. What's
She's
the longest you can have a shirt, and what's the longest you can have an event shirt, like a golf shirt with a date on it?
Ooh, great question.
It is a great question.
It's very specific. That might be the most specific question ever asked in the history
The
of
first
life.
one, the answer is there is no expiration date on it. Like you can keep the shirt as long as you like it and you feel like it's still in style. Like, but the second one, when it's like externally dated, that's a good question. What do you think? I mean, we got to spitball this. I mean, is it 5 years? Is it what kind of shirt?
What you need to do is you need to ride it out that decade where it's not cool, and then when you have it, like I still have a Cowboy Up shirt from 2004, and I held on to it forever, and I refused to throw it away. Now it's killer again.
2004? Definitely if you have something that says something 1990-something, that's cool now, right?
Yeah, right. So just put them in a time capsule.
But if you're rocking 2009 right now?
Not cool.
Right. Is 2013 cool? Is that too old?
That's probably even less cool than 2009. That's how this works, I think. But don't throw them away.
So your sweet spot window is if it's more than 3 to 4 years old, it's out until it gets to be about 20, 15 to 20.
You got any Limp Bizkit hoodies? Crack them open. That was life advice. All of our guests on the show, Pennzoil Performance Line, even the ones you've never heard of before. Will Cain with us. The Russillo Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. We did a little Alamo breakdown for you kids that haven't had a history lesson today. And we're still not sure what the numbers are, but Will Cain's going to help us.
Oh, I got it wrong. I need to fix that.
Oh, you do? Retraction?
That was, I mean.
I put you in a tough spot. I started asking for like death toll numbers, survivors, Alamo on the spot.
Right.
And that's not fair. Right. Like I know a lot about the Mayflower. I couldn't break down the numbers right now. I know it wasn't a great boat trip.
Thank you for listening to the Ryen Russillo Show podcast. You can check out the show live weekdays at 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and on ESPN News. The Ryen Russillo Show podcast.